As we all know, NBA 2K23 is right around the corner. It is only a few weeks away from release, and like every NBA 2K game that releases each year, there is no doubt that there are a lot of new expectations from the 2K community. I mean, this is supposed to be a game that we play throughout the whole year, right? And to all the 2K content creators out there, this is the game that we will be creating a multitude of videos from, and will also be streaming for countless hours during the year. So of course, like every single year when 2K releases a new basketball game, there is a lot of pressure and hope that the game will be good. However, exactly how realistic is it that NBA 2K23 is going to be a good game that we can all enjoy and play throughout the year? I mean, there is no debating that 2K over the last couple of years has been on a steady decline in terms of viewership, interest, and just overall satisfaction from the community. And to more accurately see just how bad this decline has been, I want to pull up this graph right here which compares the past 3 2K games that we've had. The blue line that you can see is NBA 2K20, the red one is NBA 2K21, and the yellow one, well, that's NBA 2K22. This graph represents the interest over time that these games have had in their own respective years. It is based primarily on YouTube and web searches worldwide, and as you can clearly see with NBA 2K22, the difference is shocking. 2K is currently at an all-time low with viewership, so what exactly does this mean for 2K23? To be fair though, there are also several factors that we have to consider here when observing this graph. Starting with 2K20, we all know that lockdown had a huge impact on the game. A lot of people were stuck at home, which overall just inflated the viewership that 2K20 had. This was also arguably when the 2K community was at its most active point. For example, the wages that big content creators were doing at the time were pulling tens of thousands of live viewership. It was at a point that I don't think 2K will be able to reach again for a long period of time. The numbers that this game was pulling was just completely insane. And that is what explains this maintained high viewership that you can see on the graph. But moving on to NBA 2K21, since 2K20 was so huge, and since majority of the community enjoyed the game so much, there was a lot of interest moving on to the following game, which was NBA 2K21 current gen. And as you can see right here, the viewership for current gen of NBA 2K21 in the very beginning was actually insanely huge. And like I said, a lot of this had to do with the trajectory and the momentum that 2K20 just propelled the franchise into. This, however, dips down and plateaus for a little bit until around November 2020, where NBA 2K21 Next Gen releases. That can be seen from another spike right here, and from this point onwards is the beginning of the split community of 2K. Between current gen and next gen, the community no longer played on a singular game, and instead we became separated. Only those who were lucky enough to get a hold of a next-gen console were the ones able to experience next-gen 2K. And the ones who couldn't, well, they ended up being stuck on current gen. However, as the year progressed, 2K21 Next Gen really died down, and the majority of the community was just not enjoying it. A lot of people were complaining. There was so much expectation on 2K21 Next Gen, seeing as it was the very first Next Gen 2K game, but it was nowhere near what we expected. So as a result, a lot of the community, even the ones with the Next Gen consoles, ended up going back to play current gen for the remainder of the year. And to be honest, for the remainder of 2K21, the game actually did pretty decent in terms of viewership and interest, as you guys can see on this graph. Moving on to NBA 2K22. Absolutely shocking. NBA 2K22 has set an all-time low for viewership for an NBA 2K game. And if you guys want to see something even crazier, I even compared this to NBA 2K16, 2K17, 2K18, and 2K19. Where does 2K22 sit in comparison to these? Well, take a look. There are again a lot of factors to consider as to why 2K22 has been such a dead game, and those factors are going to be the main talking points that I will cover in this video, as well as several solutions that I believe 2K could implement to save their game from this current decline that it is facing. Hopefully something that we could see in NBA 2K23 and other NBA 2K games to come in the future. Firstly, and I think a lot of the community can agree with me on this one, the number one biggest reason for the decline in 2K's viewership and interest is because of the split community that we currently have. Ever since the community became split up, it has just been downhill. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. The 2K community is already a niche in its own, so the separation into two games, meaning creating two separate audiences. Some people prefer to watch only current gen content, and then you have some who only prefer to watch next gen content. Only a very few rare cases of people in the community actually like to watch both. 2K22 was the first 2K that began separated into current gen and next gen. As soon as the game was released, the community was already split up. And as we saw with the numbers, the viewership was at an all-time low. This is scary considering what's going to happen with 2K23, since once again, the games will be split into current gen and next gen. And personally, I don't think it even makes sense anymore to call next gen and current gen, because this is already the third year in a row with 2 split games. Like, shouldn't next gen technically be current gen by now? How many more years of 2K will we have a split community? The game was thriving when everybody was on the same game. Take 2K20 and 2K21 current gen, for example. Those were all-time peaks for 2K's viewership. So there is obviously a simple solution. I think 2K should consider just making one game again where the community can stop being separated and come together again. All play the same game, which naturally would just create a more active community and in turn benefit 2K's overall viewership again. I understand that obviously there are significant differences between the 2 generations of consoles. However, I'm sure they can make just one game that is able to run on both consoles. The next generation console will just end up having better graphics and frames, etc. But at the same time, it's still playable on the older generation console. But at least that way, we could all be playing the same game. It is obviously already too late for 2K23 to make this happen, since current gen and next gen are already confirmed, but I would love to see 2K consider this for future NBA 2K games to come. I just don't see any benefits for the community the longer it stays divided. Moving on, every successful major video game franchise out there all has something that 2K still doesn't, and that is cross-platform or crossplay, whatever you want to call it. This has been one of the biggest things that 2K community has asked for. If 2K were to ever enable crossplay, there would only be huge benefits for the franchise and the community. The parks would be going crazy and it would be so much easier to find constant games. Being able to find constant games on 2K22 was a massive issue, and if crossplay ever came to 2K, the PlayStation versus Xbox debate would be settled and would also create an even more competitive atmosphere. This in turn once again would contribute towards creating a much more active community. Crossplay sadly is not going to be in NBA 2K23. I mean, they haven't really announced anything about it. I feel like if it was, they would have announced something by now, but so far they have not announced anything about it, and I highly doubt that NBA 2K23 is going to have it. However, I think it is definitely one of the biggest aspects that 2K should definitely focus on for future NBA 2K games. I don't see how 2K can't make this a possibility in the future. They have the resources, the money, and everything they need to make it possible. The next topic I want to talk about now is how can 2K make their game last throughout the year. As we all know, NBA 2K22 was only really active during the first month or so. Afterwards, the game kind of just died down and pretty much remained in that state for the remainder of the year. So how can 2K23 avoid this? Incentives. In order for a game to last, you need to give its players incentives to want to play the game. 2K22, the only incentives they really had to offer were the different rewards that we could grind for each season. The seasons thing seemed like a great idea at first, but then eventually the rewards just became really disappointing. A lot of players gave up on grinding for them because the rewards, well, they just weren't worth it. Eventually during the year when it was revealed that the only legend reward was a parrot, which by the way, to this day, I still can't believe how the developers thought this was a great idea. It discouraged even more people from wanting to grind the game and to achieve that legend status because it was truly pointless. In previous 2K games, hitting legend was one of the most rewarding things to achieve in the game. You would be able to make new legend builds with an additional 10 extra badges per badge category, but for some reason they decided to take that out. And speaking of hitting legend on 2K, 2K22 completely eliminated the hype around the legend race. The legend race, usually for each 2K game, is always one of the most hyped up aspects of the game, especially during its early stages. The community are interested to see who the biggest grinders are each year, and they want to find out what's in store for them for the rewards along the way if they wish to pursue the same grind. Each year, the viewership for the legend race is usually pretty crazy. The past examples of this would be Chalk in 2K20 and then Glidey in 2K21, who both managed to hit first legend for those games. And as a result, they both racked up a ton of views and exposure from it. The legend race nowadays, however, no longer really exists. 2K doesn't even have leaderboards anymore, and what used to be one of the biggest, most hyped up things for the 2K community just isn't a thing anymore. The viewership for first legends on 2K21 Next Gen and both 2K22 games were extremely underwhelming, especially with the whole new season addition to 2K22 and the new rep system they developed, where you actually grind from level 1 to 40, and how this resets each season. And this has actually proven to be quite discouraging for a lot of players. Personally though, I think 2K could actually keep the seasons thing, but they should keep the reps separate and bring back the traditional rookie to legend rep system, where you actually had to grind and put in the hours to achieve that legend status. How this would work is basically there would be a battle pass for each new season, like they've done in 2K22, where you accumulate rewards as you get through the battle pass, but then at the same time, you're also grinding your rep from rookie to legend, which will also have its own unique reward system separate from the battle pass. But honestly though, at the end of the day, for all these rewards to work as a proper incentive for players to play and grind the game, the rewards actually have to be good and worth grinding for. Bring back the 10 plus badges per category, the arrive in style, the big legend logo, and more importantly, give us some fresh new rewards that are actually worth grinding for. Moving on, another big and new incentive I think that 2K should add is a new ranked mode. The longevity of a lot of video games nowadays heavily relies on some sort of a ranked game mode. Competition is what is going to drive people to want to get better at the game and want to play the game more. 2K has only had its Pro-Am mode as the closest thing to a ranked mode, but we all know nobody cares about anyone's Pro-Am record or Pro-Am rank. It is just completely irrelevant. 2K needs to create a brand new rank mode where players will have their own individual rank that they would then have to grind by playing in a competitive game mode against other players. It can be something as simple from going to bronze to silver to gold, platinum, diamond, etc. But whatever their rank is, make it so players can show off their ranks around the neighborhood, have ranked leaderboards, add exclusive rewards for reaching a certain rank, and they could even end up having something like an online qualifier where the best ranked players can compete and qualify for real life competitive events. Imagine how much this would help out the 2K League, for example. There is just so many things that 2K can capitalize on if they were to add a new ranked game mode. This also leads to my next point that I think 2K should also focus on, which is adding a skill gap. With 2K22, 2K has no doubt made the game cater more towards casuals, making it a lot easier for them to win games. For example, in 2K22, the RNG with games is so high, you can literally lose to anyone. Someone that plays the game for 5 hours a night can lose to someone that has only just picked up the game. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this video can relate to what I'm talking about. Too many whites go in, especially with the addition of the sniper badge in 2K22. Defense can be very unreliable, particularly paint defense on 2K22. And there was also an increased use of real player percentage where players no longer had to time their shot, but instead would just rely on their my player's ability to make the shot themselves. Thankfully though, 2K23 has actually announced that they will be removing most of these things from the game. However, I still think that this isn't enough. 2K still needs to create a proper skill gap to make the game more competitive, and one idea on how this can be done is by allowing the casuals to play and enjoy the park, even if majority of the games were decided heavily by RNG. But then the competitive players that actually want to play under a skill gap can go into the stage where the RNG factor to win in games is minimized. For example, what if in the stage you actually have to green your shot for it to go in? Mistiming or whiting your shot will automatically result in you missing your shot no matter what. What if certain overpowered badges that eliminate skill gap are disallowed from being used in the stage? And what if the sliders in the stage was just made much harder than the sliders in the park? These are only just a few examples, but I'm sure the competitive side of the community would greatly appreciate it. I mean, what's the whole point of having a stage where players compete for VC, which is essentially equivalent to a wager, when your chances of winning are heavily affected by RNG instead of being the better skilled player? In addition to this, I would also love to see 2K23 bring back all of the competitive leaderboard events that we had in previous 2Ks, like Basketball Gods, for example, which was arguably one of the most competitive events on 2K. And of course, it would be even better if they actually added new competitive events that the community could actually enjoy, because in 2K22, especially in current gen, there was was not a single good competitive event. Hopefully this changes for 2K23 and future 2Ks to come. Anyways, I hope one day 2K becomes as enjoyable as it used to be. The reality is there will always be an audience and a market for this game because of how much we love basketball and how much we love the NBA. No matter what game 2K puts out, it doesn't matter how mediocre it is, the reality is its community will still continue to buy the game regardless because, like I said, we love basketball, and if this is really the only basketball video game out there, we're still going to pay for it every year. I just think that we deserve better as a community. And if you are a part of the 2K community, I'm sure nobody wants to continue seeing 2K decline like this. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you guys got to this point, you're an absolute legend. I'm sorry, I know I talked a lot. I don't really do videos like this, but I felt like it had to be done. If you guys have any thoughts, please comment down below. Let me know your honest thoughts and opinions about everything I just said in this video. I'll be replying to as many comments as I can. Like I said, 2K23 is right around the corner. I will be back on my grind uploading videos again. So if you guys want to see any more of my content, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.